quiet with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome, Patriots. You had to make a place you could be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. Whether you're watching us tonight live from a YouTube, a Rumble, X, formerly Twitter, or Facebook, we're going out live on the Douglas Ducote Show Facebook page tonight as well. Please subscribe, share the channel and the videos and the shows with your family and friends. That's how we spread the news and get the word out there about our show. Tonight, we're going to spend the first part of tonight's show talking about something that I don't want to talk about. We covered this on Tuesday, and I thought for sure we'd kind of put it behind us because it's absolute BS, and it's just, look, the far left and the liberal Democrats up in Washington, D.C. are basically forcing me into discussing this more because they just won't let it go. And I'm talking about Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. Boy, the left has lost their damn minds over this crap right now with the Epstein files. And instead of factual information, instead of actually discussing what the truth is or trying to learn the truth, the news media and the far left and the Democrats up in Washington, D.C. are spinning no merit crap. Things that are just not true. And I told you on Tuesday that the main reason I wasn't talking about this right now, we did a whole bunch on Jeffrey Epstein a while back when he was arrested the last time, and then when he committed suicide or didn't commit suicide. We did a bunch on Jeffrey Epstein, and I'm like done talking about Jeffrey Epstein. But when it reaches the point where the liberal left is so focused on it that this is the nail in the coffin to finally take down Donald Trump, and they're doing it with such blatant lies, even though I've told you that it's so difficult to know what the actual truth is because none of us really know. We can only go by what has been released to the public and talking points as far as taking them apart where there's information being put out there to you that's not true. And I'm good at that. And tonight I'm going to just disassemble some of that. I'm going to destroy some of these left-wing pundits out there in the first 20 minutes of tonight's show. So I hope you liberals and Democrats are paying attention to what's about to go down here. Because once and for all, I'm going to prove to the American people that you're full of shit and that people should turn off your programs, especially on YouTube. All those liberal experts out there on YouTube that know everything there is and just take things that somebody up in Washington, D.C. said or something that was said on CNN or MSNBC, and instead of doing your homework, believe it's factual information, so you're spreading it and going, oh, look, Donald Trump's a pedophile. I'm going to destroy you tonight. I'm going to prove once and for all that you're full of shit. And I hope that everybody watching this will share it with your liberal friends and your Democrat friends that believe that we finally got Donald Trump on the ropes. The fact that I'm even having to defend Donald Trump pisses me off, because you shouldn't have to defend this guy. Look, he's doing some things for this country right now that no other president has ever done. And then all this is a distraction. So first, let's talk about why is it a distraction? If you happen to have just woken up from a coma, or you've not paid any attention to the news until tonight, tuning into tonight's show, let me catch you up on what's happening here. Before Donald Trump was elected this time, there were people out there, conservatives, people on the right, that were talking a lot of shit about Epstein and the supposedly Epstein files and the things that are not being released. And they were assuming that there was a client list of who Jeffrey Epstein was providing underage girls to. This client list. They were assuming that he had this. And of course, it got spread by people on the right, the far right. They're just as guilty as the far left, trying to convince you that there's a client list of the people that Jeffrey Epstein was giving underage girls to have sex with. And we're talking some big time right-wing people. Dan Bongino, for instance. Kash Patel, for instance, who are now the number 1 and number 2 at the FBI. And they had no way of knowing what was in these files. They had no way of knowing if there was actually a list, a client list of people that Jeffrey Epstein was giving kids to have sex with. Now, what we do know that's historical fact is that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. He had this sex trafficking ring taking place with underage kids. More so for himself, but he was acquaintances with a lot of very important people in our country and across the globe, for that matter. People with a lot of money, lots and lots of wealth, family wealth. Like, I don't know, even connected to, Prince Andrew. And we know that when the Democrats had control of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the House, the Senate, the FBI, the Department of Justice, they had these files. Everything about Jeffrey Epstein, they had. And they were throwing everything they could think of at the wall to try and get it to stick to get rid of Trump and put Trump in prison. But they didn't release these files. In fact, when the Republicans that were the minority at the time were trying to get them released and trying to get a congressional inquiry to force the Department of Justice to release them, it was none other than Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer who fought against it and shut the Republicans down so it could not be released. But the Democrats and the liberal talking point media forget all about that. Oh no, that's not, it's like that never happened. It happened. I talked about it on this show. So did many other people. Even CNN, for crying out loud, was talking about it back then. What were the Democrats trying to hide? Why was Chuck Schumer not wanting to allow this out? Well, of course, we found out now that Jeffrey Epstein donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to Chuck Schumer's campaigns and many other Democrats. And maybe that's the only thing they were trying to hide. When that came out, well, Chuck Schumer took that money and returned it or donated it to other causes or whatever to distance himself from the money. Okay? So their hands are dirty in this. They did not want these files to be released. And then, of course, we had, like I said, Dan Bongino, who then became a He was a former CIA guy and then a Secret Service, and then became a part of Fox News and Kash Patel, assuming there was this client list. Hearsay. No proof whatsoever. And then they get elected by Trump to run the FBI. So now they've had an opportunity to see what is there. And then Pam Bondi comes along and she gets elected to be head of the Department of Justice. And Pam Bondi slips up. And she says something recently in an interview that the left is capitalizing on right now, along with many other mistakes that were made. When asked if there was a client list, she said, "I've got it all on my desk right now. It's waiting for me to review." Which meant, oh, there's an actual client list. Dan and Kash Patel were correct all along. And then when she closed the case recently and said there's no client list, they went back and capitalized that. Wait a minute, let's rerun the tape here. You said there was a client list. And she said, well, what I meant was I have the entire file. The whole case is on my desk. I just became the head of the Department of Justice. Be it a play of words or whatever, her mind was, I've got the case. Everything's waiting for me to review. Whether or not there was an actual client list in her mind, I don't know. But they're not taking her excuse for this. They believe she's trying to cover for something. Maybe she is. I don't know. You don't know. None of us knows. Unless all this information gets released. Republicans want it released. Democrats want it released. Hell, I want it released, for crying out loud. If there's somebody, if there is an actual client list, and there are people, I don't care if it's Donald Trump, if it's Barack Obama, if it's Biden, I don't give a damn who it is. If it can be proven that they were having sex with underage kids provided by Jeffrey Epstein, their ass needs to go to fucking prison. I don't care who they are. Sex with kids is not okay, in my opinion. It should be yours too, regardless of how much you support any of those people I just mentioned. And we know that Donald Trump was an acquaintance of Jeffrey Epstein. We know that Bill Clinton was an acquaintance of Jeffrey Epstein. And Bill Gates and a whole shit ton of people were in his acquaintances. He was a very wealthy man. How he got his wealth, we don't know. There's all kinds of rumors out there, like he was a CIA asset. He was doing all kinds of undercover shit. There was a lot of things that allowed him to get away with a bunch of stuff he got away with. How did that come about? If you followed all that case with him. But the left is pushing a narrative based on a few stories, Pam Bondi misspeaking, that I'm fixing to share with you. And of course, with what Kash Patel and Dan Bongino had to say prior to becoming leaders at the FBI, because they didn't know. They had no way of knowing. They were just assuming. But they're making it sound like, oh, it's factual. They knew the list was there. They've seen the list. They had not seen the fucking list, for crying out loud. So the first thing I want to share with you is, and I want you to listen to him very, very closely. I've had him on my show, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. And we didn't talk about Jeffrey Epstein. We talked about a bunch of other stuff. This is going back to 2020, I believe. I believe the first time he was on my show was in 2019. I had him in 2020. I think I had him on 2021, 2022. Al Dershowitz. Okay. And why is he important to this? He's got a dog in the fight. If anybody would know what's in those files that Pam Bondi has, it's him. You know why he would know? Because he was hired, he was one of the attorneys to represent Jeffrey Epstein in one of the cases that was against him with these sex trafficking women. So if anybody would know, factual, if Donald Trump is on a list or if a list exists, it would be him. And oh, by the way, he's calling for all the information to be released. He wants it to be released. Number one, to clear his own name, because a bunch of people have linked him into being a pedophile because he was an attorney and he was representing Jeffrey Epstein. Look, if you don't know anything about attorneys, I'm not going to say he's got no morals and attorneys don't. I'm going to tell you this much. They go where the money's at. And if somebody's offering you several $1 million to represent them, even if they're a freaking murderer or pedophile, that's what attorneys do, especially if they're a public defender, for crying out loud. They're having to represent horrible, horrible people. So don't hold him against him for what he did, but listen to what he has to say when it comes to this client list. If anybody knows, if it exists, it'd be this guy, because he's seen it all. He knows everything there is that Pam Bondi knows.
Let's be honest, transparent here. You're getting beat up a little bit online too, because they're saying you know the list. If you know the list, you know who's on the list. How about let us know why is there a list? Number one, and number two, why isn't anyone leaking the list?
Well, there is no list that Jeffrey Epstein prepared. He didn't have a list of clients or a black book of clients. The FBI interviewed some people, and those people claimed that there were certain people who they had sex with. Some of the names have been made public. George Mitchell, the former senator, Bill Richardson, the former U.S. ambassador, the granddaughter of Jacques Cousteau, Ehud Barak. These are all names that have been in the public domain for years. They're on that FBI list, but the names have been redacted. I know who the people are because I did the investigation. I was one of the lawyers for Jeffrey Epstein. It was part of my job to investigate who else was being accused. Are they being accused falsely? Are they being accused truthfully? So there is an FBI list, but there is no Jeffrey Epstein list. There's no client list at all.
So many questions. So why don't we see the FBI list? And why don't we know who the rest of the folks are that you mentioned that aren't the ones you mentioned? The other ones, there's got to be more than 4 that you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, the names have been suppressed by the judges, not by the Justice Department. 2 federal judges in Manhattan, one who presided in a civil case and the other who presided in the criminal case involving Maxwell, have suppressed the information. A lot of the information that's been suppressed involves not only names of people accused, but information about the accused. I'll give you an example. There's a woman named Sarah Ransom. She wrote letters to the New York Post to a woman named Maureen Callahan, a reporter. And she said she had videotapes of Donald Trump, of Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, of Richard Branson, all having sex with young people. And it was right in the run-up to the 2016 election. Wow, what great information. So it was investigated. And then she ultimately admitted she made up the whole story. So the judges have suppressed that. What we don't want to have happen is judges releasing only the negative information without also releasing the information indicating this woman, Sarah Ransom, admitted that she had made up the whole story. So if you're going to show the names of the accused, you have to show the negative information about the accusers to be fair. That complicates it because some of the accusers were alleged victims. And so the courts are trying to protect the victims. But this is all the responsibility of the courts, not the Justice Department.
Do you think for 1 second that CNN or MSNBC or anybody in the leadership of the Democrat Party will share with you what I just did? The attorney for Jeffrey Epstein telling you that Donald Trump's not involved in that. And the only person that claimed he did then came out and admitted after they did the investigation that she was a fucking liar and made this shit up. That was Jeffrey Epstein, one of his attorneys, for crying out loud. But no, they're not going to share that with you, are they? Now, let me tell you what CNN and MSNBC will share with you. A former employee at Trump's Atlantic City casino back in the 1980s claimed that the president once brought Jeffrey Epstein and a 19-year-old girl to the gaming floor. Liberal Democrat and anti-Trumper Jack O'Donnell is his name, who worked at the Atlantic City Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino from 1987 to 1991. Now, those dates, remember those. That's important. Told the only fake news outlets that will allow him to spew his bullshit, CNN and MSNBC, that Trump frequently visited the New Jersey resort with Epstein to attend special events. In my mind, he says, Epstein was his best friend, from really the time I was there for 4 years. O'Donnell, a frequent Trump critic, told the networks yesterday. The revelation comes as uproar over the Trump administration handling of the Epstein files refuses to die down. Anger from MAGA over the recent Department of Justice memo declaring the case closed has not subsided. While Trump has reportedly raged that his supporters won't shut the fuck up over the saga, during one visit to the Atlantic City resort in the late 80s, O'Donnell claimed inspectors of the State Casino Commission, which regulates gambling and ensures casinos comply with the law, were waiting for him in his office after Trump supposedly turned up at the venue with a group of 3 girls. Donald and Jeffrey had come into the casino in the wee hours of Sunday morning, around 1 or 1:30 in the morning. 2 buddies. They had 3 women with them. And the commission was waiting for me, and they determined that the women that they brought down were underage to be in the casino. He said he asked the inspectors how they knew the young woman's age. One of them was the number 3 ranked tennis player in the world, O'Donnell explained. And this guy happened to be a tennis fan, and he said, Jack, I know she's 19 years old. He added, to get on a helicopter with a friend and 3 other people and fly down to Atlantic City, you can connect those dots. They were pretty good buddies. It is illegal for anyone under 21 to gamble on the casino floor in New Jersey. A law enforced with strict penalties. O'Donnell said the commission gave Trump a break on this occasion, but claimed the commission made him call the president and reprimand him. Of course, he keeps referring to him as the president. At the time, Donald Trump wasn't a president of anything other than his own organizations. They made me call him. I had to, believe it or not, I had to read Donald Trump the Riot Act about his actions because they gave him a break, O'Donnell said. I had to call and say, they're giving you a break this time, but if this happens again, the fine is going to be substantial. It's going to be way over your head. O'Donnell added that he told Trump that turning up with Epstein and the young women was not going to look good. I did tell him in that conversation, I don't think you should be hanging out with this guy, just so you know. And you certainly shouldn't be doing it in Atlantic City, O'Donnell said he told Trump at the end of the phone call. Now, If CNN and MSNBC had actually any credibility, they would have fact-checked this idiot before putting him on the air. What did he get wrong, you might ask? Remember those dates I told you to remember? He was there from 1987 to 1991. And all of a sudden he's knows that Jeffrey Epstein's a pedophile and Trump shouldn't be around him? Remember those dates? In the 1980s and 1990s, no one knew anything about Jeffrey Epstein and underage girls. Jeffrey Epstein was not arrested until 2006, 15 years after Mr. Liberal Democrat and anti-Trumper Jack O'Donnell worked for the Trump organization. Bam! That little simple fact is all you need to know about CNN and MSNBC and all these liberal idiots on social media, especially YouTube, that's spreading that shit as factual information to you. And because they have 1 million plus followers, you just think that they know what they're talking about and it's the truth. No. If you're a liberal Democrat out there or a liberal and you're listening to the shit they're spitting, you're a fucking idiot for not doing your homework and paying any attention to what they're actually saying. Furthermore, it's not illegal in America for anyone under the age of 21 to be on a casino floor. It's not illegal for Donald Trump to be with a 19, 18, 20-year-old girl. Or anyone else for that matter, regardless of how old you are. It might not look right, but it's not illegal. And it's not illegal to be under 21 on the casino floor. Now, let me explain that, because I know many of you are going to go, what the fuck, Doug? You're wrong. As long as they're accompanied by an adult and are not gambling, they can't sit at the tables. They can't sit at a slot machine. But they can walk through the place accompanied by an adult. These areas are called pathways to allow families with children to walk from one side of the casino to the other side, because most of them also have hotels in them and restaurants and things for the kids to do, okay? And in the middle of it is what? The freaking casino. In most of these situations, the pathway, like, I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas, if you've ever been to Reno, or you've ever been to, Atlantic City, or any of these other places that have casinos. I've been to many of them, and there's a red line, literally a red line on the carpet. And your kid can't cross that red line. Right next to that red line is gambling tables, for crying out loud. That being said, some casinos, just to be on the safe side, will not allow anyone onto the casino floor unless you're over the age of 21. And in those casinos, the pathways are built to go around the tables and around the slot machines, and the casinos were built with that in mind. And the casinos that don't have hotels attached to them with restaurants and are family friendly, like outside of Atlantic City or outside of Reno, outside of Las Vegas, and they're just a casino, correct. Even as a parent, you can't bring in your underage kid. So getting the facts correct would be helpful, CNN and MSNBC. That guy lied to you, motherfuckers, and you took it hook, line, and sinker and didn't pay any attention to what he was saying, and you aired it yesterday as if it was fact. And then you nut jobs all over YouTube that are spreading this shit, and those that are listening to you, what a freaking crying ass shame. It really is. So just how good is the liberal left at fake news. It's spinning stories and getting their followers to believe they're no merit bullshit. Well, remember Bill O'Reilly, who was at the time of his firing from Fox News the #1 rated news journalist on cable news? Bill O'Reilly. Well, Mr. O'Reilly was being interviewed a few days ago by News Nation. And O'Reilly was making the same point that I've made many, many times. And that is that the Democrats in Congress did not care about Jeffrey Epstein while the Democrats had control of the House, the Senate, the White House, the FBI, the Department of Justice. But insert Donald Trump and all of a sudden, we got him. Nothing else worked. The Russia collusion hoax didn't work. Nothing else we did worked. This would have, right? If it existed. You had evidence of it, right? You had the files. Well, I want you to watch for a second how this interview went off the rails. And the liberal piece of shit journalist faked him into believing he was wrong. That's right. This liberal news host on News Nation got Bill O'Reilly, one of the biggest names in news journalism on planet Earth, to actually believe he was wrong. Listen.
He was convicted during the Biden administration. Not one time did Hakeem Jeffrey call for any exposition of what the Biden Justice Department knew. He doesn't care about the truth. He doesn't care about the people.
Hold on, Bill.
This is what
hold on.
he does.
Hold on, Bill. Hold on. You said Epstein was convicted during the Biden administration. Epstein committed during the Trump administration.
Yeah, so am I wrong on that?
He was arrested in 2019, and he committed in 2019. He died August 10th of 2019. So the Biden administration was not involved in a conviction or a trial of him. They were in of Elaine Maxwell.
Okay. But he was arrested and indicted under Merrick Garland.
No, under Trump.
You had all
under
of the
Trump.
information.
Epstein was arrested, indicted under Trump in 2019. Trump was president. Merrick Garland was not the attorney general.
Okay.
That clip has got millions of views. The left is putting that out there everywhere as proof. That's their proof. Because he made a mistake and he said Biden. And that liberal piece of shit capitalized on that and then started throwing dates at Bill. And got him to believe that everything went down under the first Trump administration. You heard it, right? So what's wrong with that clip? That even members of the Democrats up in Washington, D.C. and members of Congress are sharing that on their social media platforms. What's wrong with that clip? Let's look at the facts. Not spin, not I gotchas, not any bullshit whatsoever. Factual information. Jeffrey Epstein was first arrested on July 27th, 2006, News Nation. George W. Bush was the president. He was arrested by Palm Beach Police Department on state felony charges of procuring a minor for prostitution and solicitation of prostitution. Not under Trump, you lying piece of shit. On June 30th, 2008, again, George W. Bush was president, not Donald Trump. Epstein pleaded guilty to a state charge of procuring for prostitution a girl below the age of 18 and was sentenced to 18 months in prison. Epstein served 12 months before being released on July 22nd, 2009. And guess who was president then? Barack Obama. He was then allowed a year of probation on house arrest until August of 2010. While on probation, he was allowed numerous trips on his corporate jet to his residence in Manhattan and the U.S. Virgin Islands, and where he had an island to have sex orgies with underage kids. He was allowed long shopping trips and walks around Palm Beach for exercise. After a contested hearing in January of 2011 and an appeal, he stayed a registered sex offender in New York as a level 3 high risk or repeat offender of sexual crimes. And who was the president in 2011? Obama, News Nation. You're supposedly a great organization that has millions of followers. Oh, I got you, and you got Bill O'Reilly, and the left's going to spread this shit everywhere. You lied your ass off. Shame on Bill O'Reilly for not catching what they just did to you. How they turned that around on you and you didn't catch that they were fucking bullshitting you. The Palm Beach police chief accused the state of giving Epstein peripheral treatment. They didn't understand why this is happening. This guy's a pedophile. How in the hell do we arrest him and y'all turn around and slap him on the wrist and let him go and put him on probation and allow him to just travel around and keep doing this to girls? And that got the Miami Herald involved. Said the U.S. Attorney Acosta gave Epstein the deal of a lifetime. Following Epstein's arrest in July of 2019 on sex trafficking charges, Acosta reassigned as Secretary of Labor effectively July 19, 2019. And who was president? Sure as fuck wasn't Donald Trump. President Donald Trump was not president until Jeffrey Epstein's second trial, July 6 of 2019. Epstein was arrested by the FBI, New York PD Crimes Division Against Children Task Force at Taylor Airport in New Jersey on sex trafficking charges. He was then jailed at Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. And then on August 10th, 2019, he's dead. That's how the liberal left spin bullshit, and you weak-minded little bitches believe that crap and don't do your homework. I put this shit together in a matter of about 15 minutes this evening. When I read it and people started sharing it with me and my liberal friends are going, oh, look at this, Doug, look at this, and what about this, Doug, and look at this. Seriously? Are you that fucking stupid that you can't look at these dates yourself and figure this shit out? Seriously? You've all been lied to, and they're continuing to lie to you. There is no such thing as honest journalism anymore, especially in the mainstream media. Not at CNN, not at MSNBC, not at ABC, CBS, NBC, the Washington Post, the New York Times, or even Fox News. Most of you are getting your news from independents like myself that don't give a fuck about how we speak and don't give a shit about political correctness, because that's what it takes to get it across to people's simple minds that it's all fucking crap. It's smoke and mirrors. They're pulling this big wool over your fucking eyes, and so many people out there are too stupid to realize they're being lied to. I got a friend of mine today text me, a liberal friend, that said, well, Doug, I got this from this guy. He's got 2 million followers on YouTube. I don't give a fuck if he's got 500 million followers on YouTube. He's a goddamn liar. He fucking lied. He's not telling the truth. Look at the dates. Look at the facts. Go back and watch the clip. They're liars because they have Trump derangement syndrome and they don't give a fuck about the truth. All they give a fuck about is destroying the man who's making this country great again. That's all they care about. Nothing else matters. Many Americans of both parties think Trump is being dismissive of Jeffrey Epstein controversy right now. That he's simply being cavalier. I don't read it that way. Nor should you. I think he's very upset. Yeah. He has made amazing, unprecedented policy accomplishments, and Epstein is taking all the wind out of it, so to speak. Not to just to his determinant, but ultimately to ours. We're being presented with false choice. You either favor full disclosure, no matter the law and consequences about which we have no knowledge, or you're protecting a pedophile. That's what they believe. Those are your two options. Does anyone really believe that FBI Director Kash Patel and Secret Service Chief Dan Bongino, let alone Attorney General Pam Bondi, despite her public relations misstep, have something to hide here? Is it conceivable that Patel and Bongino have railed about this issue for some time now, have some nefarious motive in changing their position now that they're in power? Did they find out, unbeknownst to themselves, that they're on the list? Could there be some plausible explanation as to why they're playing their cards so close to the vest for the time being? Or is the fact that they're doing so proof that they're suddenly wrapped up in this corruption? I don't think so. I don't think these people change their stripes that quickly. I don't think my willingness to trust them, any of them, makes me an enabler or corruption or perversion. But back to Trump. If he were implicated, the Dems would have crucified him when they had sole possession of the materials, the files, the list or no list. And you know it. Liberals and Democrats, you fucking know it. They had the same files that Pam Bondi has right now for 4 damn years. And don't tell me, oh, well, they didn't release it because the Republicans would have just said it's fake news. They wouldn't have believed it. No, they would have fucking released it like they tried everything else. They had nothing against Donald Trump. Everything they threw at him backfired. You think for 1 second, if they actually could prove and show you videotapes or photographs or an actual client list with Donald Trump on it involved in all this, did that one is stuck? We all know it would have. But now, people who have dodgingly supported him, even through tougher times, are turning on him and piling on with the opportunist Democrats who heretofore haven't given 2 shits about any of this until now. In fact, when the Democrats were in control of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the House, the Senate, the FBI, Department of Justice, it was none other than Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer who stood in the way of the Epstein files being released when Republicans in Congress were asking the same damn thing, release the files. I reported it right here on this show. And now Chuck Schumer is actually being asked that question by reporters, and he's just dodging the question. You think CNN and MSNBC is going to share that with you? Or any of these left-wing pundits on YouTube or any other social media platform? Fuck no. Why? Because it goes against their narrative that Donald Trump's a bad guy. I reported on it at the time. Why would he not want them released? Who was he covering for? It is a fact that Jeffrey Epstein made thousands of dollars worth of donations to Chuck Schumer's campaign, the campaign of many other Democrats. Bottom line here, none of us know the full story yet. None of us know yet why this administration hasn't done a better job explaining it, or at least that they'll be able to tell us much more later. But it seems many have so much invested in believing the worst about this case that Epstein was the leader at the center of an international conspiracy that they can't let it go. Republicans and Democrats. It's as if their worldview will crumble if their worst speculations and suspicions aren't vindicated. And if Trump and his administration happen to be in office when this whole thing fizzles, then they too must have been mysteriously drawn into this conspiracy that is too powerful even for moral mortals. In the meantime, Trump's heyday is being rained on, and he feels betrayed by a bunch of supporters who in turn feel he's betrayed them over the Epstein files. Well, as Americans, how about we show a little grace on both sides, especially the supporters who should at least give Trump, Bongino, Patel, and even Bondi some trust before throwing them to the sharks. There has to be more to this story. I guarantee you there is. But, and I repeat, there is no way in hell I'm defending the protection or insulating of pedophiles or corruption. Trump's policies on the border alone have burnished his credentials as an enemy of trafficking and pedophilia. I'm not intending to qualify the different issues, but he deserves major credit for that. As dramatic and juicy as it sounds, I do not believe this leads to the conclusion that this administration is concealing these files or lists because to disclose them would implicate all kinds of world leaders and lead to the downfall of civilization. Sorry, folks, I'm just not buying it. I could very well be wrong. And if I am, I'll be the first person to stare into this camera and tell you. If it turns out in the future that I'm wrong, you can bet your ass you're going to hear me, the first person to say it. But can some of Trump's latter-day critics make the same disclaimer? Will they? I don't care if they're podcast hosts for the conservative side or the liberal side. Are they sure they know this is the worst thing that's ever happened? And they now know that the deep state is so deep that it drills all the way down to China and encompasses Trump and his administration? I seriously doubt that they're concealing anything. It's because they're in a way involved in corruption. If they're holding back serious information, I have to assume they have a darn good reason for doing so, even if in the end I'm wrong. I also suspect we'll learn more sooner than later, as Hillary Clinton would say. We have a country to save right now, my friends. We need to remember that, which again is not to say let's close our eyes to massive corruption because the end justifies the means. I personally believe that if you molest little kids, you should be assassinated. I'll pull the fucking trigger for you. You shouldn't live another day. You should not breathe the same oxygen I'm breathing if you're molesting children. Whether it's to say we have a country to save and the government officials we're entrusting to do that as our representatives are probably not doing anything wrong here, and you just strongly consider that. So many people, I'm sure, radically disagree with me, but that doesn't make me disrespect them or judge them as a suspect. Many of them might judge me for my stance, but I can live with that. And at least in humility, I will say I don't know and can't yet know all that's involved. And until I have more information in the fullness of time, I'm going to trust people that I trust. And they repeatedly earned that trust beyond my wildest expectations, and yours too, regardless of how much you want to believe it. They've accomplished things this administration has done for us that nobody thought was possible, much less in such a short period of time. From dismantling the failed Department of Education to the emasculation of Iran's nuclear nukes in a Kurdish bold and spectacular military operation, the sealing our porous border to unleashing of our deliberately suppressed energy sector, to the taming of inflation while growing the economy again, to reconstructing our military with explosive recruitment numbers, to launching ambitious and achievable defense systems to protect our homeland, to the Doge focus on waste, fraud, and abuse and corruption, which the Democrats have fought every single step of the way and still are, to the defunding of Ivy League institutions that are allowing people to protest and hurt people from Israel and Jewish folks, to the successful championship of women and women's sports only, to tariffs, revenues, to earning once again the respect of foreign leaders and persuading NATO countries to contribute their fair share, to two major steps towards peace around the world, to restoring respect for America as once again the true leader of the free world, and so much more. Republicans and Democrats presumably want the same things, except those who would exploit the issue or any others for their own selfishness. Trump derangement system is real, folks. TDS, it's real. So is liberal derangement syndrome, for crying out loud, coming from the far right. It's times as these America needs to stop this petty nonsense and think outside the box and stop listening to these fucking nut jobs on social media just because they have 1 million plus followers. They don't know what they're talking about. And too many people, even Republicans, are falling for that stupid shit. I just blew it out the water for you tonight. In the first, well, I was only going to go 30 minutes on that, but I went a fucking hour on it. I just proved to you what they're sharing out there right now. The biggest talking points are all smoke and mirrors and a damn lie. You heard it right here on this show by me tonight, 7/17/2025. They're a bunch of damn liars. That's all they are. I'm not even going to bother with you with these last two things I was going to share with you tonight. One is, once again, Russia's talking about nuclear weapons against Ukraine, and the former president of Moscow or Russia is wanting Putin to nuke us. And ICE has in custody a really bad rapist that the Biden administration let out several times to go out and continue to pry on innocent women. I'm so freaking disgusted with what I just went through for the past hour that I don't even to bother you with that. I hope you get the point. I hope that you share tonight's program once I'm done with this live show and it goes up as a regular video far and wide on all your social media platforms. Share it with the liberals out there and the liberal Democrats out there that, oh, we got you and we're putting the nail in the coffin of Donald Trump. No, you're a bunch of fucking fools. And the more you open your mouth and the more you spill this bullshit, the more people like me have to get involved and shut you down and make you out to be the fool that you are. And I shouldn't have to be doing that. There's so many other things to be talking about. But when we start lying about somebody, and those of you who have been following me for a while, you know damn good and well that when Obama was president, as much as I disliked that man, when he did good things for this country, I came on this show and I talked about it. And I told you about the good things he was doing. And when he did bad shit, I told you about that too. Hell, even with Joe Biden, there were times when I gave him credit for shit. But if I talk negative about Trump, Republicans unsubscribe. If I talk positive about Trump, Democrats lose their fucking shit and attack me. I'm a racist bigot. I hate the country. You know, you've heard it all. You know, you just, it's nothing you can do, but just keep pushing forward and keep putting the facts out there. I will go down in history as somebody who told you the truth. And when I do get it wrong, I come out and tell you I got it wrong and I apologize. Unlike so many other people out there on social media. They're just got, even on not just social media, but the mainstream media, for crying out loud. How many times have you heard CNN come back and apologize? Or MSNBC? You ever heard any of them come on and talk about the Russia collusion thing and say, oh, we got it all wrong? For 4 years, we talked about this shit as if it was fact. Now it's been proven wrong. Nope, not going to either. Because they don't have any morals. I do. And those of you that follow me and have been following this show from its inception, so do you. And I thank you for that. And that's all I really care about. Whether I ever reach 1 million followers or not on YouTube, for instance, I've got 122,000, I think, subscribers on YouTube. But across all my social media platforms and my website, I got 1.6 million followers. Would I like to have 20 million, 50 million? Of course I would. I'd like to have that on just YouTube. Not for my own personal reasons, but so that I could reach more masses with facts instead of bullshit, which is what's destroying this whole thing. So I think you got the message tonight. I hope so. I'm sorry, liberals and liberal Democrats. You're listening to a bunch of fucking idiots. That makes you a fucking idiot. If you can't wake up and just Google it, for crying out loud. Why does it take me to come on and show you that the major talking points right now, tonight, being spread by the liberal left is 100% fake news? You watched me dissemble it right here. And I hope you will keep tuning in to watch that. Because I do a lot of work to try and make damn sure that what comes out of my mouth when I look into this camera, I'm staking my name on it and my reputation on it. And I'll be damned if I want to get it wrong. I want to make damn sure that you respect me like I respect you for tuning in and watching this show. Whether you're watching me tonight on YouTube, Rumble, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, please subscribe, share it with your family and friends. Make damn sure you share this video tonight everywhere you possibly can, because the left is sharing that fake news all over the place tonight. And this counters it and proves that they're liars. And that's what we have to do. We have to be able to prove factual information. And the facts are they've lost their damn mind. I'll be back next Tuesday. If anything breaks between now and then, I'll either do a video about it or I'll come live and talk about it if it's of major importance to American patriots. Other than that, whatever you're doing this weekend, please be safe. Make sure your family knows how you feel about them. We're only here for a brief period of time on planet Earth. And the worst thing is for somebody to die and they died not knowing how you cared about them or how you felt about them or vice versa. So it's important. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families in our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. Have a wonderful and safe evening. And I'll see you all again very, very soon. Thank you for joining me tonight. It's very much appreciated.